Welcome to Albion TV presents the AO Daily Show, your source of real news in an unreal world, keeping you up to date on the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online. Today is Friday, the 21st of February, 2020, and I'm your host, Shozen. And joining me today, as always, my co-host, Bogul. How are you doing today, Bogul?
Talking to myself muted. That's how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty good. Hi.
As long as you're talking to someone, Bogul, it's all good. Sometimes you need to practice in the mirror. You ever play The Sims? You spend hours just talking in the mirror, trying to build up that charisma. Oddly enough, it doesn't work in real life.
What?
No, you can't. You can't just talk to the mirror and just build your charisma. It doesn't work like that. But we have non-Sims related stuff today and non-charisma related, non-talking to yourself related stuff on the docket today. Yes, we talked to somebody else today. Well, not today, but earlier. Mm-hmm. We talked to Domknit and Tekisen of Tidal. And we have that interview for you guys today. However, before we do that, we have some quick PSAs. And we're going to try to run through them and just get through it all real quick. Guys, on Wednesday, there was a patch. It was patch 4. Next Wednesday, patch 5 is coming. Patches.
It feels like a patch a week, right? It's 4 weeks.
It has been 4 patches, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. We do a patch a week here at Albion Online, and we're grinding them out real quick right now. But we have upcoming patches too, Bogul. We have Retroman's NDA, balance, playtest changes that happen that you can look at right there online. You can go ahead and check those out yourself. Let me get those patch notes and the Retroman notes, both for you guys. I'm going to stick those in the chat for you.
Yeah. We talked about all of this, actually like 90% of this in yesterday's and Wednesday's show at length. So if you want to listen to us talk about these changes, you can do that there. Today we just wanted to do a brief reminder that this exists if you haven't seen that yet. It has a bunch of cool changes. For your consideration, I suppose.
Yeah, you could consider those changes. You could consider them. It doesn't matter what you consider them. They're changes. Some of them will happen. Some of them won't. If you really hate them, go ahead and tell Retroman that won't work for me, and then tell him why, then get involved in the playtest. Speaking of which, he's looking for playtesters, I believe. Go ahead and message Retroman. He likes it when you do that.
I think you need to have a few friends, though, who can write up a...
You need a group of 5, yeah. Speaking to adjustments to the Alliance test cap, you like how I did that there, Bogul? Complete non sequitur segue.
Yeah.
So, Robin came out onto the forums. He braved the elements, went into the forums, and let everybody know that the communication for the most recent test was a little bit, it wasn't great. That's what we'll say. We'll just say it wasn't great communication. So he came out and he clarified things. I just linked that in chat for you guys. We went over that in depth on Wednesday, talked about it again on Thursday. So that's all I'm going to say about it today. And you guys have the link there in chat.
One thing we suppose we can talk about is that the test is still scheduled for February 26th. That is next week, Wednesday. Some of that is like the specifics of that, what will make it in on probably Wednesday-ish. Not confirmed Wednesday, but that's usually when SBI does patch day. That is something that will happen in Queen Patch 5, which is on the test server right now.
Yeah, you can go check it out right now.
Yeah. It has the disarray. It has some smart cluster queue changes. It has some changes to fast travel, cooldown, guild and alliance changes, hideout item retrieval, and even some resource changes and randomized dungeon loot changes. That is something that we have been waiting for since Queen happened, I think. And this is in testing right now on the test server. It's not live yet, but there is, again, if you're that kind of person who likes
to
be informed.
Bogul, what are you saying about these guys? What are you saying?
Well, some
We're
care,
all that kind of guys.
some
We're
don't.
all the kind of guys who care about changes on the test server. But go check those out. But Bogle, we do have one more piece of new news, don't we?
Yes, it's sort of a call for participation,
Call to action,
I suppose.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mythersyria contacted us today, and she said that she's looking for more forum mods, specifically mods that speak more languages than just English, correct? Isn't that what they're looking for?
Mm-hmm. They are looking to stock up on a bunch of mods on the forums. There will be an announcement with that very soon, but we sort of wanted to plug it here briefly for you guys who are listening right now. That if you are interested in becoming a forum mod, the way would be to send an application to moderators@albiononline.com with an email including your character name, what languages you speak, your experience of moderation, if you have any, why you'd like to be a mod, your Discord tag, your age, and your registration time on the forums. And maybe you can become the next swinger of hammers on the forums.
Okay, you really got me a little confused there. You were going somewhere with it. I wasn't sure where you were going, but you came it back around to hammers. Okay, I get it. The band hammer. Good idea. I like it. Okay. Do we have anything else for these guys, Bogle?
We wanted to get that in earlier this week. But since it's Friday today, and on Friday we try to do community things, we moved it to today. It's 2 community things that we want to plug before we start that interview with the guys from Tidal today.
Okay.
One is a little bit of art that Gong Woku made on Twitter. And it's a dude picking up or watching his ox getting picked up by one of the what's the dude's name? The big ones? No, I'm embarrassed. I don't know the name, Shozen.
The aspects?
Yes.
Yeah.
That dude. It's pretty cool. Not everybody has seen that yet. Yeah, give it a like if you see it. It's Gong Wuku on Twitter, and maybe retweet it if you want to. And the other one,
we have the dungeon crawl, the dungeon quest, the guide for the
Avalonian Dungeons, a full guide by Quasars. He went through the effort and wrote up a full guide for the whole thing with 40 pages of how to deal with the Avalonians and that elite dungeon stuff that came with Queen.
How do you deal with the Avalonians there, Bogle?
Well, you can look at their spells, your suggested comps, your tactics, your strategy, all in that guide. It's pretty good. And I'll link the forum thread where it's linked to the Google Doc, so you can shout a like to the dude and say thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
As Bogle says, yeah.
That was a quick rundown. We aren't even 10 minutes in, Shozen. That might be your fastest one yet.
That was, oh God, Bogle, that was a lot of news to get through. I can't believe did we really do it all? Is that it?
Think so.
Okay, except for the 7 things we cut out. Okay, very well done, Bogle. We did a good job getting through this. But now on to the meat of the show. See, about a week and a half ago, Bogle and I had a discussion with the guys from Tidal.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good interview. And we wanted to get that in before it got too old. So rather than me making a bunch of silly voices today, instead, we're going to let these guys make noises at you. And why don't we do that without further ado? Let's just set that up for them.
We don't need any further introduction. Everything. I
think everything gets explained within the first 2 minutes of the interview. They say who they are. I don't need to tell you who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They say why they're there. I don't need to tell you why they're there. And they have a good time in the interview. So let's just let them do the talking. I tried to cut myself out quite a bit out of this interview. We don't need to hear from me. We hear from me every day. All right, let's go ahead and play this interview. Thank you, guys.
All right. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Albion TV interview series. I am here once again with my partner Bogul, and today we will be interviewing Tekisen and Domknit of Tidal, former members of Phrasing. We're going to find out where these guys came from, a little bit maybe about themselves, and where they're going as a guild. So let's first start in with the introductions. Tekisen and Domknit, how you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Just a brief overview of who we are. I'm the GM of Tidal, and Tekisen is one of my co-leads. He handles the logistics. I handle the ZVZ force. We split the work that way. Basically, a quick overview of like our history. We are, like you said, ex-Phrasing. Basically, we're the ZVZ force of Phrasing that basically merged the Phrasing and Phrasing Junior into one guild called Tidal. And we have a brand new leadership. So like the leadership of Phrasing, they're taking more of a back seat right now. They're a little bit AFK. So right now it's just me, Techie, and a few new officers that are leading Tidal. And we are 100% focused on ZVZ with having some GVG teams with us as well, supporting us.
Yeah, just doing that crystal stuff in the back end.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, how did you two get started? Specifically, you guys as players. How long have you been playing? How did you get into Phrasing? And how did you become the new GM of this Phrasing enterprise?
Sure. For myself, I started playing this game like around free to play. I always had an eye towards this game beforehand, but I never got into it until it became free to play. And then after that, I eventually ended up joining the like one of the guilds in the Slurp Alliance, and then I ended up going towards Phrasing, Phrasing Junior specifically. And then after that, I just fell in love with the guild. A lot of my like close friends were fame farmers that just played that game. All like I basically just joined Phrasing Junior, fame farmed a lot. I got my spec up, and then after that, after I got my fame up, I moved into Phrasing, the main guild, because the junior guild basically like you transfer the higher fame into the main guild, right? So I went to Phrasing for a few months, and then after that, like towards like the Queen update, as I got close to Queen update, like in the Albion seasons, like things really changed for Phrasing. Like we did so much more ZVZ because I became one of the shot callers for the Quiet Alliance, the lead shot caller for the Quiet Alliance, and we were just doing ZVZ day after day, and people were like, "Wow, Phrasing does ZVZ now!" Like, because like people always thought like, "Oh, like the joke about like being AFK in Anglia."
Yeah, like, you guys just seemed safe and comfortable, and you'd wait till invasion was over and go get your territories one piece at a time.
Exactly. And that's something that I really, really wanted to change in Phrasing. And what I did was I became a shot caller. I just literally just ZVZ'd every day, man. Like we fought so many bigger Zergs than us, like well-named Zergs. Well-known Zergs, like for example, we had like this 90 versus 90 against PoE before Queen update. We like really destroyed them in the NA time zone. That was like one of our highlights. That was like a grudge match against Duratine. But yeah, no, that was a really fun fight. And then we won multiple fights like that towards the end of the Avalonian season. And then after that, we just transferred all those ZVZers into Tidal under my leadership. Because like the GVGers and Phrasing didn't really want to focus on ZVZ because that wasn't the aspect they enjoyed in the game. But I enjoyed the ZVZ obviously, and Phrasing. I want to change that, so we ended up making Tidal because the GVGers, they want to take a backseat for Queen Update and just focus on where they would go in the future or what they're doing in the future. So yeah, and then in terms of meeting Tekisen, you could speak about that.
Okay, so I started playing actually in beta. I think it was when Queen's Market and King's Market were a thing. I'm not really sure exactly when that was, but I happened to see an ad and it piqued my interest after playing EVE Online. Since then, I've come and gone as times have played out, but I've always led smaller guilds. I think the most notable was Naptime Social Club. We had pretty good success in the early days of Clovia. We were a small 20 to 30 man guild, and we would just we would fight everyone and anyone. So I've really enjoyed the ZVZ aspect of this game as well. More small scale than what you see in some of the bigger groups, but still. And through those exploits, we ended up merging into guilds like Contingent and other places. And from there, I kind of found my way into Phrasing and now into Tidal.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just want to touch up on that point about that Contingent. So like towards the end of the season before the Albion season, like a lot of guilds from SAS actually were merging into phrasing, and like we actually ended up getting a Zerg that way. That like we were able to train up and actually have numbers, like in order to actually do ZVZ. Because phrasing always was about the small scale ZVZs, like 20 versus 20, 30 versus 30, like nothing really bigger than that. But after we got guilds merged into us, like Contingent, some Ager, some guilds like that, we were able to really strengthen our ZVZ in terms of numbers.
And so now you've got, how many different guilds have joined you to become Tidal? You mentioned Ager and Contingent.
Yeah, from top of my head, there's quite a few. Like there's like some soft skills like Killjoy. They had some people come in. There were some members of Ninarsha that joined us. Ninarsha merged into us in the beginning of Tidal. What else? Tekken, do you remember any other guilds?
I would say we are a melting pot of guilds right now, of a lot of like-minded players who just want to fight. We've taken in people from so many guilds to kind of create this force.
Exactly.
How many people are you running right now? What do you have for a guild size and, say, prime time ZVZ force size? What are you running for numbers?
So right now we have 233 slots filled up. In terms of prime time ZVZ, we run 60 to 70 man Zergs. But for recent day, we run like around 90 to 100.
Nice.
And basically, we're in the Surf Alliance as alliance created by us, so we get more numbers through that way as well. Okay. In terms of the fights. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been noticing you guys out on the field quite a bit. We tried watching you yesterday a bit. I think we caught.
You missed the fight, man.
Yeah, we caught the tail end of a fight, and then we followed you around and a bit of the ring around the rosy. But yeah, we've seen you out there fighting, and it's really good to see. Are you getting good fights on the daily?
Of course, man. We're getting really nice fights. 2 days ago, we had a 150 versus 170 EU PoE blob that we wiped. We wiped 170 PoE blob. Around 18 UTC in the prime time, and then yesterday we fought 120 versus 170 Arch. We wiped Arch, and yeah, we're like those are just the last 2 days, and each day we're getting a lot of fights. Also, a lot of Sun fights because obviously there's the fucking Sun War.
How is that going, by the way? Because I've been involved in that somehow.
Sure, yeah.
Frank is upset at me for something I may have said on the air. So
sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't even know if I said that. I'm just getting accused of it. I'll take it though. Whatever stirs the controversy, I like it as long as they're fighting.
Sure.
Who cares if I'm
interesting?
Yeah, just keep it fun.
So right now, honestly, like we took all of the Terrys, man. Like honestly, like at one point we thought the war was over, but Sun still thinks that the war is still raging on. But like we're just like, we just think the war is kind of over. Because they stopped showing a lot of times for CTAs. Like they're trying to do some like radish tactics where they just like do like ironclads while we're hitting hideouts, or just like no show. Like they're just like basically just like launching but not showing up necessarily.
Yeah, Dios denial of content launches to get you to move one area, and then they can play Ring Around Rosie, and as long as they can keep you tied up, you can't complete your objective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say the video Luke put out today in regards to those tactics was rather comical.
Yeah, it was really funny. Like today, Lupak was screaming. I think he had like 100. Like they had like 400 deaths, but it was all like ironclad deaths. Like they just brought so many ironclads, but we ended up successfully hitting the hideout. But it was such a pain.
They were like queued up in the hideout, like standing in a line, waiting to come out and just knock people, like taking turns. It was pretty.
Yeah, exactly. And then
that's good.
At one point they came out. At one point they did come out all of a sudden with actual gear, but we ended up wiping them like immediately as they came out. But yeah, no, they're just trying to be annoying. Like that's what they're doing right now because they realize they can't. Like they even said this is quote unquote from like Frank and the leadership. We can't win the fights, but we could like really annoy you guys. Like they're just trying to like they're that stage of just annoying us basically.
Well, are you attacking them with your alliance or with your guild?
Initially, it was with our guild, and then now since they're launching on multiple spots, we just have some of our alliance like guilds holding on various terries to make sure they're not ratting. Yeah.
Okay. So it's generally, but when you're fighting, it's generally guild versus guild, and it's your boys versus their boys, and you find you're winning those fights.
Yeah. So whenever we have those head-on fights, like with even numbers, we really like demolish them.
Okay.
That's basically what it is.
So this whole thing initially started as a guild versus guild because we were fairly solo. We had Mighty Frogs maybe bringing 10 to 12 people.
Gotta love the Mighty Frogs.
It was mostly, they're great.
Yeah, man. They're great, man.
It was essentially just us versus them. And then some strong-worded banter occurred, and we decided it was time to take this to another level.
So basically it was like, just to be a little bit more specific on that, like they really doubt us. They're like, oh, like fighting Tidal, that's a walk in the park, stuff like that. They're like, who are these guys? Just randoms. We'd easily take all their terries. And then we just ended up taking everything they had in return. Yeah. So we were looking at the terries, but they were launching on us. So like, they actually were the ones actually launching more on us in the beginning. Like, Teki can add on to this, but like they were launching on us more than we were launching on them. Mm-hmm. And then every time they launched us, we just launched on like all of the terries in just to in return.
So it really came down to a crossfire at one point. There were some guilds, as we saw from the Queen update. It was really cool at the territory reset because a lot of smaller guilds did claim territories early on. But also because of that, some of the bigger players were able to force them out a couple days later. And there happened to be crossfire in a couple of zones, typically the driving region and the Sandrift Steppe zone. And that crossfire is kind of what led to these wars, these fights occurring between Sun and us, and every conflict has just sparked more and more fuel for the fire.
Exactly. Yeah, it just kept growing larger and larger to where we are now, basically. Yeah.
Well, nice.
How confident are you that you guys can hold what you have right now? Because I think that's one thing that a lot of people are curious about you guys. Because you are not, a mega alliance, as people would call it. Mm-hmm. But I'm just also personally curious how confident you are with your size of area you own. Do you think you can defend everything? You said you need your alliance to defend sometimes.
So in terms of Tidal, we're still growing. Like as ourselves, we could hold the majority of this by ourselves, but the thing is, like, obviously with Sun just like basically just doing fake launches everywhere, it makes it a bit more difficult. So we just have like basically assign an allied guild. Okay, you hold this territory at this launch time, and you just protect it while our dude pacifies. I honestly, like, the only people that are actually launching is just Sun in this area. Honest.
So if there's two things to really pick apart with this. If a mega alliance were to come at this current stage, it would be difficult to hold everything we have. While I think we could punch above our weight and hold some, even with these escalating numbers that they would bring, I think it would be difficult to hold everything. But that would also mean they would have to give up one of their flanking groups fighting some of the other big mega alliances out there. But as we've all seen with the update coming out on the 26th, there's going to have to be a lot of coordination between these mega alliances if they want to keep their power.
Exactly.
So I don't know honestly how this will play out with that.
Yeah, because I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen once that update comes around. I mean, like, sure, people have plans set in place, but like, there's always greed. There's always like guilds that want points themselves, and that greed leads to internal conflicts. So it'll be interesting how people play off. And also, like, I heard a lot of mega alliance are yes, they're going to be handholding within the guilds that they have, but they're also going to be downsizing. Like, they're going to be getting rid of certain guilds that aren't of much use within them. So it'll be really interesting to see like where everyone goes. And also, like, this also just changes the fact that there's a lot of players that are going to be without guilds. That's going to be very interesting to see where they go. Like where did all the alt guilds or all of the players who don't play every day, but they log in maybe like once or twice a week on the weekends, like where did those type of players go? That'll be very interesting to see.
What are your plans with it, if you don't mind me asking? Are you planning on just cutting it down to 300, or are you just going to abandon the alliance and go guild for guild? And because you have, what you said, 230, you can't really fit many more other guilds in there. You'd have to pick a really small one.
So Teki can answer this one, I think.
So where we're sitting right now, we actually have a beautiful blend in our alliance. Both of our guild and Mighty Frogs can fit into one alliance under the Serp title, and then the other two guilds, Blaze and War Gods, can also fit into one alliance under the Serp 1 title. And it's very easy to differentiate when you see the Serp tag, even if they're red. It is going to be a new concept for players in Albion. Not all red is dead, but it will still be a way to form coalitions, to form groups, and to quickly notice and recognize who allies and enemies are.
Yeah, I think it'll be more about, like, people are currently worried that everybody will have the skill of a squawk, where you will see conflict coming from the left and Blue Army coming from the right, and they'll perfectly mash themselves together on top of you and not kill any of their own. I don't think that's what the majority of these groups are going to be. If they do group in naps or like combined alliances like you're talking about, you'll be in different zones, but have roles to compete in different roles and use them tactically instead of like inside of a battle and just smashing over people with numbers. It's going to be an interesting thing. I don't think it's going to be as smooth as everybody's saying to just rebuild new alliances and they're just going to make them smaller and we'll just all communicate the same way we're all doing now. Well, that's until you see a guy who's running by on a juicy ox through your territory and you're like, I never did like that guy.
That's what I'm saying. Internal conflicts will definitely rise. So it'll be interesting how that plays off. More drama, man. More drama.
It's going to be interesting. I've been told by some that they're talking about this is going to make it even easier for the rental alliances to form. I don't know. I think it almost makes it easier for the rental alliances to fail. Like, I understand how it does make it in some ways easier for the rental alliances to come together, right? Like, because everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll just all agree to be, pseudo-allies, and we'll just kind of pay you for, not attacking us because you could bring the rest of the alliance to come to bear on us. But I think if that happens once, everybody else will be like, F no! This sounded like a good idea until those guys got stomped. I don't like this idea anymore. And then you'll just see it all splinter down into smaller regional groups that have wars on the sides, and then eventually those lines blur as interpersonal politics plays a part. But early on, I think, people are going to try to hold those alliances together as long as possible. And I think the fights that we see happening in 6 months are going to be between the people who tried to hold it together the longest. Like, the new beefs that come into this new world are going to be formed because people tried to work together and they couldn't.
Exactly. I can see it coming, man. I already know it's coming. It's going to be interesting, especially to see the mega alliances. Like honestly, like with them downsizing too, like getting rid of smaller guilds, like the smaller guilds can form a coalition within themselves with the main goal to just disrupt. Like basically what Sun's doing to us, like they could just have that goal to just disrupt and just mass launch or randomly just to get revenge, for example. Like that's always a possibility.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think in the early stages, you're going to see a lot of these smaller groups trying to work with their Big Brother alliance or their Big Brother guilds.
Exactly.
And then stuff's going to go down and they're going to be reminded that they're less than in some way. And people hate that. They hate being told that they're not equal to or better than you. And if you say that, well, we're just more skilled, that's why we get the better towers, that works for a little while. Animosity builds. A few victories against their new opponents start happening. And they're like, well, wait, I get why you say you deserve it. But what about us? What about our loots and stuff? So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting, but I do understand where people are talking about this rental empire being formed. Where do you guys send in the rental empire? Are you renting to anyone?
We are not. So we do have a couple of territories that do pay us tribute, strictly on days when we defend the territory as regear costs. So they help us regear, and they don't have to form up.
Interesting. I like that's a very interesting way of doing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if other people adopt a similar model, because if you can put your force somewhere and fight for them in a mercenary position like that, That's pretty interesting.
If you look at zones like Sandra Prairie, though, in the northern corner, there's a small 2vs2 Hellgate guild up there called IQ over IP. And they've been there since day one of us moving into that region, and we still haven't taken them out. The only reason we're really attacking or demanding anything from hideouts is from Sun, and that's because we're at a war with them right now. So there's kind of a little animosity there to get them out of the region as efficiently and quickly as possible.
Do you think politics could end this war between you and Sun?
We have tried, and there are a few possible routes to take, but as it stands, Sun doesn't want to see the war over, and Frank is a very tenacious guy, so this could go on for a little while.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Right. Like I was saying at the beginning, we already thought the war is over after we took the terriers, man. We're just like, okay, like listen, like we could work together, man. Like you don't have to, we don't have to make this escalate this any further. But like they just want to keep going. They don't think the war is over, even though we like wiped them so many times. Like they're just gonna come back. It's crazy. Like they have a lot of willpower, man. Like it's crazy.
I will say, when I talked to Frank in our interview, he said it's not about the tower, it's not about the hideout, it's being in the zone. Do they want to keep coming back to that zone for 3 weeks, every day, at 18 UTC, at 21 UTC, whatever time it is? We're gonna stay there, and we're gonna make them keep coming back every day, because we're just gonna stay there. We're going to keep putting down hideouts. We're going to keep hanging out in that zone. And it's about the zone, not the territory. It's about the zone, not the hideout. And I really liked that tenacious attitude.
That sounds like that, though, that Tyler's just getting rich off of loot, no?
Yeah, basically. Our figures are really good. Our figures are getting, like, we're running out of chests for donations, like our loot donations. So whenever we win, whenever we go out, and we get the loot, we basically have our boys donate everything that says mounts, case, and consumables so we can regear them. We're running out of chests, man.
Well, you know, there is a player-run city just east of Arthur's Rest. I believe you could just go over there, Arthur's Rest trade federation.
Sell Sun gear
you could just sell it there, or you could buy more chests there. Either or. I believe there is a full-functioning player market there, and you know what? I bet you there is a market for the gear that you're currently holding. There's probably people who go, I use that gear, and I'm pretty sure they hang around that area.
Yeah. We've actually discussed that with Sun already. I mentioned last night some of the economical implications of this war with them. And while they are tenacious, Frank does have some deep pockets. So he doesn't have to go anywhere anytime soon. He can definitely afford to keep this going.
Mm-hmm. It did own Anglia.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'd like to add on to that. He doesn't regear his members, which is really weird because like he has all the money and his boys are just dying. So that's something.
Wait, Sun's not regearing their boys?
Nope, they're not regearing their boys. That's the crazy part.
I play in a very small alliance where the officers don't regear themselves. They regear the lower rank members, but they don't regear any officers, as officers tend to roll deep. You know, they bring their own 8-1 and stuff. And I know guys there in a small, tiny alliance who are not fighting as often as Sun, and they've already spent, 30 million a player. So
yeah.
And that was over the weekend. So by now I'm sure they're up to like 35. I can't imagine what like the average lineman from Sun is running if they've been ZVZing every day and not getting regeared. That's got to be rough. I did not know that. I'll have to ask Frank about that.
A good amount of Sun already jumped ship and have been joining Tidal, and like they're the ones telling me like, look, they didn't regear us. They're just having us fight this war, and that's where I'm getting info from the ex-members of Sun.
Okay.
Telling me this. Yeah.
Between that and obvious leaks from their Discord.
So you guys are involved in a little bit of the spy game then against Sun and monitoring their Discord?
When that's pretty much all Naptime Social Club did was spy. Yeah. We even then though, like I said, we were good with 20 to 30, and we would fight groups of 100, and we would always regear our members, even in a small setting like that. So to hear, Sun, who was, they held Anglia. They even held Mercia town plots for an extended period of time. Wasn't regearing. Was kind of disheartening. Because they are really, honestly, Sun is good people. Like, they're just fun to fight. They're really fun to fight.
I love Frank.
I even reached out to them
interview.
and I was like, man, like, we don't need to keep going, man, because like it's just that at some point it just seems pointless, right? Because like they're there to waste time. We're gonna pass everything they launch on. Like, it's just, we might as well just work together. And like I was like, yo, like, we could just work together. We could fight bigger forces. I can help train your ZVZ up. They just seem stubborn, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's something else, some other idea that they have behind the scenes that they're trying to plot.
I don't know. Maybe they're already working with somebody and they can't fit you in.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking with Techie as well. Yeah.
I have one thing maybe that we can fit in, because it's just something that I'm curious about, since we touched on the economics a little bit of warfare, and people say that war is very expensive, and I think that's a known fact. I'm just curious if you have any numbers to share, just in general, what you spend on a good ZVZ, or what you gain from a good ZVZ, or what your gear throughput is, if you can.
So I guess one number I feel comfortable sharing is the repair cost for gear we loot on a typical ZVZ. It's over 10 million silver on repairs. And we have multiple ZVZs a day. So we're burning through 20 to 30 million just repairing the stuff we loot per day. I know that because I do literally all the repairs myself.
Exactly. Yeah, Techie has the logistics.
I have all the reviews and all that shit solo right now, so I have a pretty good understanding of our numbers.
Are you tracking that on a daily basis?
Yeah.
I actually have a Discord channel that a few of us have access to, where all the money spent and earned is tallied. Every single transaction that I make is on is a ledger, so we can kind of see what's going where and try to maximize some of that.
Well, how many sets is that?
I'm sorry?
How many sets of gear is that, just roughly?
With stuff breaking, roughly, I'd say it's like 60, 70 sets plus, because a lot of that relic gear starts adding up. Like, you start repairing some 7.1 galas, some 6.3 galas. It's like almost 100K each. So, like, it's not an astronomical amount. Like, I'm sure if you ask Blue Army after one of their big fights with Poe, their numbers are much larger. But for the size of the groups, it's a pretty staggering amount.
Do you happen to know what the cost of, like, you saying you bring out over 100 people, 130 or something like that out on a ZVZ? What does it cost to just re-gear that? What is the financial cost of re-gearing a wipe of 100 guys?
Give me 2 seconds and I will pull that up. If you're talking, I don't think we've been routed yet out here.
Yeah.
So I will pull up the worst case scenario and some of the better case scenarios and kind of give you some numbers real quick.
Because I know Bogul loves those. Bogul loves the numbers. And we don't get a lot of guys who take really good notes on the cost. And so it would be good to share that with the audience for a change, because a lot of people will keep that secret. And I heard you played Eve. So you know that one of the things that people loved to do in Eve was say, this battle was this much ISK, this equals this many dollars. And we don't have a way of doing that, really. So it takes somebody who goes and says, okay, this was the cost of re-gearing all of our members on that wipe of 150 people.
So I would say if we were to lose our full ZVZ force, it would cost somewhere between 70 to 80 million silver. Not including battle mounts, because obviously we run command mammoths, we run ballistas and beetles and things like that. That would not be included in this cost, just the gear. I would say it's 70 to 80 million. Most of our members typically have 1 to 2 million worth of gear on them. On an average ZVZ for us, we're probably spending anywhere between 5 to 20 mil in re-gears. So it's not a lot, honestly, compared to what we're taking. So a lot of our fights end up with us losing, 10, 20, 30 people, but we're killing 170. So there's a huge net gain. And a lot of the regear costs on our end come from gear that we have acquired from the fight. So the first thing I do is I take the gear and I repair it all. And then I have everyone post their death log in a regear channel. And I take all those and I make sure they meet our criteria. Like, we have IP requirements, we have gear requirements, we have, obviously ZVZ set requirements. And then we also, we cross-analyze that with other things. I guess is the best way to say that. But essentially, 99% of our regears get posted are approved, and they get put in a queue system I have. And then from there, we start pulling from the queue and handing people loot, typically from our chests first. So it is a little more difficult to get the exact cost because a lot of the loot does come from our spoils of war. But then anything we do happen to need or we're short on, we will go purchase from the various markets of Albion or craft ourselves.
Now, I'm just looking at, you're saying 80 million before battle mounts, and you're bringing battle mammoths, more than one?
Yeah.
So you're talking about well over 200 million for your entire ZVZ, including mounts?
I would say, yeah. A lot of our mounts came... I shouldn't say that. A few of our mounts came before Tidal was actually formed. A few of our members decided to purchase them. Domknit and myself specifically have bought a lot of battle mounts for the guild's use. But we have been also very lucky to have some skilled ballista pilots. And we've amassed quite an ordeal of battle mounts from that as well.
Beetle Army, man. That's all I'm going to say. Beetle Army.
How many guys do you run on battle mounts? This is more of a tactical, I guess, question here as we're moving from finances to tactics. How many battle mounts do you run and of what kind?
It usually depends on who we're fighting. If we know they're going to bring out a lot of battle mounts, we run 2 siege ballistas. If we know they're usually going to just bring maybe 1 or 2 beetles, we just run 1. Right now, we currently are bringing, for non-recent days, we're bringing 1 mammoth. On recent days, we bring 2 to 3, including obviously allies, who will also be bringing theirs. Beetles, we have a decent amount of beetles. A lot of people love riding beetles in our guild. We usually have 2 to 3 per ZVZ. Okay. On recent day, I'm sure we might have more. Yeah. So
you're looking between 5 and 7 battle mounts per ZVZ, maybe double that on a invasion day.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that gets really expensive. That's impressive. I'd like to run some of these numbers at some point and get an idea of what one of these ZVZs actually costs. Maybe you guys can send me some numbers at some point if you ever actually do get run over. I'm not saying I hope that it happens to you, but if it does, please donate your body to science.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll as soon as it happens, I will collect the information and send that your way. But obviously will happen at some point. We've caught wind of a lot of the mega alliances heading this way, so we are prepared for that. And when it does happen, I will likely post those numbers to Reddit so everyone can see but I will definitely send them to you as well.
Yeah, you could just send me the link to Reddit and I can just use the Reddit link, and then you don't have to write it down twice, and I'll just host the Reddit link on our show and give everybody a direct over there. Because it's great to see when you guys do post information. I want to give everybody credit for all the extra effort they put in to growing this community. And stuff like that it's community work. You're really just telling the community what things cost, and that's really super important. Bogul, do you have any other questions before we head out?
No, I just want the guys to promote Tidal a bit more. Say where people can find you, how they can join you, what they need to join you, or anything recruitment plug wise. That is always, I think, very important.
Basically, we do mainly our recruitment on Discord. We have a Discord link. I'm sure I could probably send that to you later, put somewhere, but it's mainly Discord. They can find us in game, search up Tidal, and then we have a Discord link in our description as well. We also have our recruitment officers posting ads everywhere on Reddit, on various recruitment forums in both Discord and as well as other places. So we're really out there, man. Recently, we've been really upping the recruitment. A lot of people have been joining. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing well, and it sounds like you guys are going to do well come the cap. I don't think it's going to affect you guys in that much of a negative way. Maybe just give you guys more guys to fight next door.
Hopefully, man. Yeah.
Will you? Speaking of that, I guess I got one more question. Would you be more willing to fight the members of the coalition known as PoE if they weren't all under PoE and had different guild tags instead?
That's a very interesting question. So, rumor has it, I don't know how true this is, but I heard that they're trying to get rid of their NA, like Hustle and Hitman and Lock and Day Row. I don't know how true that is.
Wow,
but
that would be
right now. Yeah, right now, like I don't know how true this is 100%, but it's just speculation. Like if they get split, obviously they would have to go into 2 different alliances. Basically, what's happening in the NA side, they're bullying Fricks like Hustle and Hitman and Block and Day Row. They're really, as you can see, they're destroying their hideouts on the east of Bridgewatch. They like Fricks Alliance, the Clap Alliance, they owned all of that, but Austin Hitman really took that side over, and they pushed us out of NA as well, just because they bring like 300. Like they bring like crazy numbers now. I'm talking like 300, like zone capping type numbers.
Really?
Yeah. That's basically what they've been doing on the NA side of Bridgewatch. They bring like 300 people. They've been bullying Fricks. Like Fricks had that entire region beforehand, like after Reset Day, and then they just came in and just took everything, and they took 2 of our NA terries as well. But that goes back to what I'm saying about the PoE. If they do, let's say, whether they split or if they go into 2 different coalition alliances, that gives us space to work with for NA in any way we can, because like it makes it a lot easier for us to fight PoE in the NA's time.
Yeah,
for sure. I guess like the Hustle Hitman, and the Block Dura, like the Brazilian division of PoE, basically.
I would say it's also easier if they do maintain some kind of coalition between them, some kind of agreement. It's easier to group with. For example, you guys could have that same kind of agreement with Fricks, even though you want to fight Fricks all the time. You can say, guys, these guys are coming in, they're bigger than us, let's just put you guys go in this zone, we'll go in this zone. We know what they're doing. They're going to bring 2 guilds or 3 guilds or 4 guilds, but we gotta kind of work together to fight them, and just say these are your zones to protect, these are our zones. And if you do that, you do create, like, we recently interviewed the Albion Fight Club that had the idea of many different small groups working together to only fight out the big groups. Like, they're going to fight amongst themselves, bang on their own towers, hit each other, in gangs, hit each other's transports, do whatever. But when it comes to PoE or Squawk or 1941, they all work together to push them out. And I thought that kind of thing could work really well in this next phase, where you see all these smaller groups trying to fight over that one cool objective. But if a bigger group comes in and tries to take that objective, they go, no. That's our objective to fight over. You get out of here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to some of the things you see in EVE, where coalitions form to push out the big boys. And I think they've been planning this. They've actually been planning this very well in Albion Fight Club, from what it sounded like, because I did listen to that interview.
Yeah. So do you guys think? How are you guys gonna handle the next phase though of fighting this Sun War? Are you gonna go, like they say it's still going on? Are you gonna go stomp them out and take those hideouts, or is it a situation where you're gonna be like, guys, come on?
So basically what's happening is I basically told them, like, listen, every time we launch on one of our zones that has one of your hideouts, we're going to come hit it. And we've been consistently doing that. And it looks like they have slowed down on the launches. Like even like for tomorrow, for example, there's only there's only 1 launch for tomorrow. They launched at one point like 16 launches or something, like a crazy number in one day. That's amazing. For 2 days, like 2 days worth of launches in one day, they launched. And we're just like, wow, okay. So that's how it's going to be. So we just started hitting the hideouts now.
We were alarm clocking for every engage, because a lot of us are NA players.
Exactly.
So we were waking up at like 6, 7 in the morning to fight these guys, and we're all for it, because a lot of us just play for the fight. We love content in this game. But
it takes a lot of dedication. I'm glad to hear that you guys are. That sounds like you're really busting it to get that done and keep this war going and not let them win even during their own time zones. Man. I like that kind of perseverance.
Like they thought, like in their time zone, like 12 UTC, for example, they're like, you know what, like we could mess up. That's like England time, man. Like we got this. Like you don't have to worry. But then one day we just showed up, just rolled them over 12 UTC. They just stopped showing up. So like we play multiple time zones. That's the key like factor about Tidal is we don't stick to one time zone. We have players all around the globe, both in the alliance and mainly our guild. Actually, we always have a consistent amount of players on every time zone. Honestly, so we're able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a definitely a luxury. Bogul's letting us know in chat. He thinks it's an absolute luxury to have, being able to cover more than one time zone like that. It's got to be amazing. So is there anybody, you sound like you guys are a really tight-knit guild. You've got some really great players. Do you want to give them any shout-outs, give some airtime to some of these great players you have in Tidal? Sure.
Tech, you want to shout out your Crystal team?
Honestly, yeah. We have a couple of Crystal teams who are doing great work. Alex Straza, 347, Alexi. It's one of our actually it's one of our EU teams. They're just crushing it. Zoe Claire's also been helping set up a bunch of other Crystal teams to help push these towers up in level. And honestly, that's key to us achieving some of our goals, and that is really key to making these territories a little bit harder to push into. I know during Albion TV yesterday they mentioned this, pushing a level 5 tower with that mage up is incredibly painful. It's definitely something you need to consider when you're doing that, because it starts to hurt really quick.
Mm-hmm. And just some other people I want to shout out is like my officer team. So like you Salty, Ados, my recruitment officer Skirt, Skins, my other officer Lomet, King Momo, and obviously my co-lead Techie. Techies have been doing like a fantastic job doing logistics and helping me focus on the fights. And honestly, that's like one of the main things that's really, because we split up the roles so nicely that I can focus on the fights, Techie focus on the logistics, and that way we can just really, really do well in both of those areas. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Honestly, all of our guild members and even the alliance members, everyone's really been putting in work and time to this effort. And this.
Yeah, and also we had a few players. Like last week, we had a player reach number 2 on the kill boards for kill value that week. Robbed. His name is Rob. That's crazy, man. In the entire game, he's number 2 for kill value.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, I was gonna say it's nice to hear you guys, talking about some of these players, because I actually remember King Momo. He's fantastic. I want to give a shout out to him as well. I'm glad that you guys are really enjoying this. Thank you guys for coming on and doing this interview. It's great to hear of a small group that kind of split off of. I gotta say, phrasing was pretty big at some time. You guys had some pretty large alliances. So to go down to what you've done, this shrink that you've done, focusing on ZVZs, and coming out pretty strong, doing well, taking territories, and mostly it sounds like having a good time, right? Win, lose, or draw, you guys are having a great time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you see any of that changing anytime soon, or does it just look like it's a good time going forward?
Good time going forward, man. The alliance shrink is just going to help us make it stronger, honestly.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. All right, Bogul, do you want to say anything before we hop out of here?
No, sir. Nice to have you guys on. Thank you for your time. And I'm sure everybody will appreciate you telling everybody who you are, because I think Tidal is very interesting and definitely some guys to follow.
Thank you so much for having us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Take care.